Christina Flannery, you joined the Righteous Gemstones this season as its new costume designer. I know you were a fan of the show beforehand, so what was it like getting the call to work on one of your favorite shows?
Well, yeah, that's great. I have always been a huge fan of basically anything Danny McBride does. And I have a weird, like, religious upbringing. So it was kind of like a kismet match. I remember I talked to my agent and was like, I just really want to work on something like the Righteous Gemstones, not thinking actually it would turn into the Righteous Gemstones, but it was really exciting. And I think a lot of the times when you work on projects and you go in there like and you're like, oh, this person, I'm so excited to work with them, and then you go and you're like, oh, man, they weren't like what they were, made out to be. This is like the total opposite. Like, I was stoked to work with Danny and he's absolutely amazing, so it's just like, woohoo, perfect.
Mhm. You can meet your heroes if they're Danny McBride. So,
I mean, come on.
well, what was it like coming onto an ongoing show, and having to maintain in some way what's already been established with the characters' looks, but also adding your own flair and pushing it forward a little bit? Because I do think you did that this season with the characters.
Yeah. I think that, coming onto the show, there was a lot of every season with the show has a lot of different storylines that are going on. So this season, like, the kids are becoming the head of the church. So that gave us opportunity to kind of make their wardrobe even more outlandish, more expensive, more lush. So coming on and kind of changing that up and putting my own spin on it, was fun. We got to push a lot of things. I think, like, a few things that we kind of kept were like the color palettes. Danny really likes the colors of the character. So you can kind of notice like Judy's in blue and Kelvin's in green, Danny's in red, or excuse me, Jesse's in red. So it was a little bit of that. And then, yeah, just taking it and putting my own spin on it and like what I felt, what would happen with like Kelvin, for example, how he was still kind of a preacher, like youth pastor, but like I took it more into like the TikTok youth pastor world. So it was fun. It was a good transition.
Hmm. One thing I love about the show is that these people are wealthy, but they don't have the best fashion sense. And what is it like dressing characters who are desperate to look cool but aren't pulling it off?
I have to say it is fun as hell. It is so fun. Like, it's like the stuntedness, the camp, like, it's silly. Like, they don't have access to a lot of this stuff here. So, maybe they would have a local stylist that would come in and be like, oh, these are the greatest fashions from New York. And they were obviously like, maybe 5, 10 years out of style. So it was a total exciting, really fun experience for sure with doing that for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, because what they wear is very opulent and gaudy, but I feel like you also ride that line of being insane and ridiculous, but not making fun of them. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Is
Yeah.
that like something you think about for each episode?
Yeah, I think that's a perfect Danny is very much the kind of person within the show that he doesn't want them to be the joke. He wants the, like, what they're saying and things like that to be kind of the joke. It's really special in that way. So, yeah, I mean, we could put Judy in like a crazy, ridiculous, over the top dress, but it's also like vintage Bob Mackie. So it's like really cool to kind of ride that line of, okay, so she's going to wear this like, glitzy and glammy thing, but it's like, it's Gucci. So it's like totally accessible in ways. And Danny, of course, his character, it was kind of like referenced of like George Jones, Elvis, things like that. So I think that he's the one out of all of them that kind of sticks to the similar vibe. I just kind of added a little bit more of that like Hank Williams Jr. 80s stuff, which is more of that sequins and like that Dolce and Gabbana suit he wears in like episode 1 is like so ridiculous, but was like a good transition to gaudy fashion, kind of cool, kind of really bad.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think the piece de resistance of the season was episode 3, Baby Billy's oyster shell costume.
Mhm.
And I understand this wasn't written script. but this, how did this come to you, this design, this outfit, this look?
Well, again, going to figure out a way that I could take my own, take his storyline and run with it was, Baby Billy's now, he's doing all these shows. He's basically a lounge singer in, I guess, Florida. And it's like, what would Baby Billy want? Like, who would he look up to? So it was taking a lot, obviously, Liberace, Wayne Newton. And then I am always so just like, oh my God, I'm just so inspired by drag queens. So I feel like, matching that all together, it was just like, how far can I go? I want him to have this like really cool, elements to him that also kind of represents Florida and maybe even Charleston, which would be oysters. Some people say clams. It's not a clam. We're not in Maryland. So even Walton says it. I'm like, it's not a clam, that. But yeah, I think it was like just going to the extreme and adding that flair of like the walkabout so he could kind of play with it and use it when he's on stage. And it again is something that it's funny, but it's like it's not like really making fun of itself as much. It's like he's on stage, he thinks he's really like being cool and he's doing, all this elaborate stuff. And then the reality is he's just a walkabout of an oyster and it's actually ridiculous. And he's the actual pearl. So yeah, that was the kind of the angle for that.
Well, what went into the build of it? Because when you like look at close-up shots of it, you see all the details of the crystals and the pearls, and I just also love the colors, the pastel blue and the coral pink. So what was that build like?
Those colors were delicious. I went to LA and I just kind of like, I had some different ideas. I was going back and forth with different colors. And sometimes I think, when you find the perfect fabric, that kind of just, evolves into its own thing. So it was, what does an oyster look like? They're not necessarily the most beautiful at times. They can be kind of gray, but, occasionally you can get that like beautiful algae bloom that you see sometimes in South Carolina that has those really beautiful textures and colors to it. So it was that, and then climbing in, like, I don't know if you've ever been to the fashion district in LA. It's wild. So you're just climbing over clothes, trying to find, fabric, trying to find things. And I found this beautiful like organza fabric, and I was like, oh my God, this is the way we need to go and build off of it. So it was started from that, and then getting layers, and of course, I think if you can tell from watching the show, more is more when it comes to rhinestones. So it's like, if we had a beautiful top, it's like, okay, this isn't enough. Let's get some crystals on it. Let's get some crystals on it. So it's kind of, a little bit of pearly hand beat. It was just, my Taylor Agra, God, she's like incredible. She just laid it all out, and we were like, more, okay, more. And then Kelly, who made the shell, there was quite a bit of trial and error for that. And then also just like the harness to put it on so you could see it without the actual, the visual of the harness showing, but he would still be able to take it off.
I love when he takes it off later.
Yeah. And he just like pushes it. Yeah. And but when you turn around, we have this invisible zipper in there where you can't even tell how it was connected, which is helping us with some stuff we might be working on this season too. So it's cool. It was good to kind of have that experience to use it in the future.
Yeah, true. I also loved episode 5, which is set in 2000. It very nostalgic for me because I was also in high school at that time, and I loved all the looks. It was like Jesse channeling like Fred Durst. So, what was all your inspo for capturing the turn of the century?
Fred Durst, absolutely. I agree with you. This is also my generation. So, one of my favorite characters has, I was asking actually all the way back to the interview when they were saying that they were going to be doing like late 90s, early 2000s. I was like, okay, cool. Like, as long as we can do Jinkos, then I'm like,
whenever I see Jinko jeans nowadays, I'm like, I just burst out laughing.
I know. It's like, we have to have this. Like, it was such a pivotal thing and where we went to school and stuff like that. So it was Fred Durst, it was Korn, it was, even Judy, she's kind of more Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, even like, Kirsten Dunst, Claire Danes and all that stuff. But then also, with little Kelvin, he was like even Stevens. It's hard, because he's
it's the Hawaiian shirts,
and the puka shell necklaces and stuff like that. So it was kind of like Shia LaBeouf, like even Stevens and things like that was the reference for him. But yeah, it's all also just going back to oh my God, what did I wear? And like looking at photos of me and like my friends, and just going on Facebook and seeing stuff that you're like, oh my God, so fun to use those as references.
Yeah, for sure. I need more 2000 flashbacks next season. Well, fourth season,
Mhm.
working on that currently. What can you share? What can you tease? You
I
just tease something about the attachment for the shell you could use for the season.
I would just say that it's going to be even more bigger, more elaborate than this season. I can't say much more than that. It's just like it's to me, some of the stuff that we've done this year is kind of like I've just never seen it before. It's incredibly bizarre. So if you see the oyster shell and you think that's a lot, it's going to be even more than that, and it's not going to be just baby Billy. It's going to be a lot of other people.
The more marine life costumes.
No, no, not marine life, but a
Okay,
certain kind of little out of world, otherworldly type thing for sure.
interesting. Well, Christina, it was great speaking with you. Thanks so much for your time. And you
Thanks.
get to stay on because everyone's coming back. So.
Perfect.